My name is Sarah Kaufman Bradstreet, and I live in Washington State in the United States. And my husband and I, about 3 years ago, took on a whole house build all on our own. So that's been consuming a ton of our time lately. We're almost to the finish line. So Janet can see that I'm sitting in a kitchen that's finished with
Yeah,
some
it
moving
looks great.
blankets over the counter. So that's been really consuming us, and it's just been a whirlwind adventure. But besides that, I have my business, No More Wasted Days, where I help people quit drinking, but with the help of a 30-day alcohol-free challenge. I started this actually before the house build began, way back in probably 2019, the very end of 2019. So I have been doing this, and I love it. But I have two kids. I have 13-year-old boy-girl twins, and they keep me really busy. So I'm just a super busy individual. Before all this, I was actually an elementary music teacher for 18 years in the public schools. And then I finally took the leap to quit doing that so we could take on this house build and start my own business.
Yeah. Wow, that all sounds fabulous, Sarah. Well done. So let's dive into your drinking story, shall we?
Yeah,
When did you
that's why
start
we're here.
drinking? Exactly. Let's tell
You-
the folks, shall we? When did you start drinking?
let's see. I didn't actually start drinking heavily in my teens. It was probably more like experimenting in my high school years with alcohol. And in college, it was the same. I really was waiting till I was 21. The drinking age in America is 21. So it just felt hard to get alcohol. Obviously, I could, and I did when I could. When I did drink in my college years, it was very much binge drinking. When I look back now, I can see that pattern in my drinking, that it was always pushed too far. I just was not a person who could stop at one, even though I really thought I could. So I would say that my drinking really started in my 20s, like when I
Okay.
was a brand new teacher and going to happy hours with coworkers, and it just escalated really slowly until I turned 40.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say, Sarah, about you wanted to stop at one or two because a lot the people like us that get into this fix, we don't seem to have an off switch, do we?
Yeah.
And
Nope.
a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't as well.
Yeah, I'm very curious about those with the off switch. What would that be like? Because I don't
Yes.
seem to have it in anything I do.
Yes, you're all or nothing. Yeah.
I really am.
It's
Yeah, that's what a
it's
friend finally said to me when I quit drinking. She was like, "You and I, we're go big or go home." And I was like, "Oh, we are."
yeah, because when people like us decide to get sober, we really go for it, don't we? And we
Mhm.
do all the things and we want to help other people get sober as well.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
no stopping us. So it evolved gradually until you got to 40. During those years, so we're talking about what, 25 to 40 maybe, were you worried about your drinking? Did you used to think about it or not really?
At the very end, I was worried about my drinking. And I say the very end, probably the last 3 years is where
Mm.
I kept questioning it and going, I just don't feel like this is normal. I think maybe I have a drinking problem. I did not want to have a drinking problem. Like that felt so stigmatizing. And it also felt like the only way to quit was to do something like Alcoholics Anonymous. That was the only thing I could see
Mm.
as the way out of quitting. And I didn't want to do that because what I had seen on TV, it's so silly because I didn't know anything about the program. I still am not fully educated on the program. It just was this idea to me that, oh, I don't want that. So I was just questioning it. The time I would question it the most was when I was drunk. I would be drunk with my husband and I would be saying, I think I got to quit drinking. I have to quit doing this. It was never when I was hungover. Like when I was hungover, I felt terrible. But usually then I was like, oh, I need a drink just to get through. So it was so backwards when I really look at it. And it was just this really slow escalation because there were times like in my 30s where I didn't drink at all. And obviously, when I was pregnant, I didn't drink. And then there was a time where I trained for my first half marathon and I told everybody, I'm not going to drink because I saw that Oprah trained for a marathon and she didn't drink. So I should do what Oprah did. And I remember it wasn't a big deal when I quit. Even though my husband and I were big drinkers at the time, it still wasn't a big deal to people. It wasn't a big deal to me. I just quit. My husband cut back a little bit. And then after the race, I started drinking again. So there were moments where I took breaks, but by the end, there were no breaks. It was an
Yeah.
everyday thing. And it was never I wake up in the morning and I start drinking. And that only happened on the weekends. But I could see the escalation finally, and that
Yeah.
freaked me out. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, it's just becoming more and more, and it's taking more and more alcohol to get
Yeah.
drunk." So,
Exactly. So did you set rules as well? I used to have
oh my
rules like
gosh.
I'll only drink on the weekend and I'll only drink when I go out. But then I used to make my poor husband go out every night so I could get my drink. What were your
Oh,
rules, Sarah?
my rules, oh gosh, I, like, was changing them all the time. I would do things like, gosh, probably 4 years before I quit, I was like, "I'm not gonna drink all of November. I'm gonna take a break, but I'm gonna drink on Thanksgiving." So we have our holiday of Thanksgiving in the States, and it's for our family, it was a big drinking holiday. Every holiday was a big drinking holiday for my husband and I. But I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this." And I made it to about 2 days before Thanksgiving, and then I quit. I was like, I'm not I did enough right there." Then it became things like, I will only drink on Friday and Saturday, and on Friday, I'll let myself have 3 drinks, and on Saturday, 4. But I never stuck to it. Sometimes I'd say, "Okay, I'm only gonna drink wine." If I only drink wine, wine is fine. Like, I would make up little rhymes. It was just ridiculous, and telling myself, "Oh, I'll drink water in between each drink." And I didn't do any of it. I just made all these promises to myself, and I broke them over and over.
Yeah, me too. And it takes up so much mental space, all that,
Oh,
doesn't it? It's
yeah.
exhausting. And it's so bad for our self esteem as well because we feel like a
Yeah.
failure. It's, oh, I didn't stick to my rules again. What's wrong with me?
Again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was the most exhausting thing, and it was the thing that I was finally so free from when I did quit. I was like, "Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't have to
Wow.
spend so much time thinking about this anymore."
And think about more interesting things now. What about when you became a mom, Sarah? Do they have mommy juice culture where you are?
Oh, yeah. Yes, for sure. Like the wine glasses that say mommy juice. I wasn't very aware of it, obviously, until I had my kids. And then I was like, oh, okay, other moms drink. Cool. And I remember being at like daytime play dates. Wouldn't happen very often because I taught during the day. But when I would hang out with moms, that it would be this like, oh, we're going to have wine. And the moms that had wine, those were the ones that I gravitated towards. Oh, you all hang out and drink while your kids play? This is fun. You're the moms that I want to hang out with. I surrounded myself with drinkers, so I felt like everybody was a drinker.
Yeah.
And it was just this normal thing, which also made it really hard to walk away because I was like, I'm going to lose all of my friends. And it turns out there's people out there that don't drink, which I
I
had, I
know.
had no idea of when I was a drinker.
Yeah, we say everybody drinks a lot. Everybody drinks. I'm fine. I'm just like
Hmm.
everybody else. We just
Oh,
try and
yeah.
convince ourselves, don't we? And when
Yeah.
we are sober, yes, it always amazes me how little some people drink. They are drinking wine, maybe, but they'll have half a glass and it'll last them all night. I'm
Ah.
still quite fascinated remembering how when I was drinking, that absolutely wouldn't happen. But yeah,
Right.
we gravitate towards other drinkers, don't we? And then, as you say, we worry, oh, I'm going to be lonely if I quit drinking. What am I going to do for fun? What other worries did you have as you moved towards that big decision?
Gosh, I had so many worries taking on quitting drinking. It really was something where I was just like, I don't want to do this because so much will change. Because drinking had become my only hobby. It had become the only thing that I did for fun. Me and my husband drank together, and I was really worried that our relationship would really change if we quit drinking. He actually quit with me. It was actually his idea.
Oh,
So
nice.
somehow I went along with him, and I was totally like, I don't know if I'm all in this with you the way you're in this, but I was also like, I'm not going to sit around and drink while he's trying to cut back. But in my mind, I thought we'll go about 7 days and then one of us will crack. And luckily it didn't turn out like that. But I was definitely worried that my husband and I's relationship would really change because we had always been drinkers together.
Mm.
This sounds terrible. I didn't know if I was going to like him sober, but we had been sober together, so it was silly. I just didn't know if we'd have anything to do together for fun
Mm.
or if we'd know how to have fun together. Actually, our relationship has improved so much and everything has been way better than I thought it would be alcohol
Yeah,
free. I
me
had
too.
all these stories in my head. This is going to be terrible. I'm going to lose all my friends and my husband and I won't like each other anymore. And I was so wrong.
Yeah, yeah. And those fears are what keep us trapped, aren't they? I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
thinking, I must never drink so much that I have to quit. So I
Hmm.
was trying just to keep it at this level. And I did for a number of years, but then the dependence really takes over and you can't
Yeah.
control it anymore.
Yeah.
Did you have a rock bottom
I did
or
not
a
have
moment when you thought, I can't do this?
I didn't really have a quintessential rock bottom that people talk about. My husband and I did go on a cruise about just like 1 month before we quit drinking, and it was an all-inclusive. We bought the drink package, and that was
Of
the
course you
big
did.
because the drink package is really expensive, and one thing about me and my husband is we are always trying to save money. We're always trying to get the biggest bang for our buck, right? So I was like, we both have to buy the drink package. They don't let one person in the room buy it and one person not buy it because we're like trying to, oh, maybe one of us could just buy it and then we can just get each other drinks the whole time. No, they don't. They're on to you. So
So
they don't let you
wise.
do that. So I think, God, I feel like the drink package for a 4-day, like 4 full days on the cruise was like $800 a person.
Wow.
And crazy, but we were okay. I bet, and maybe it was $800 total for both of us. I really don't know. But we were like, we're going to show this cruise. We're going to get our money's worth and more. And we drank every day on that cruise. Like sometimes I look back, I'm like, I don't know how we survived that cruise. And we were with a group of friends that did exactly the same as us. Like we were just waking up in the morning, having mimosas, Bloody Marys, and then drinking by the pool all day, drinking at the bar at night. And when we got home from that cruise, we were both like, "Oh, we should take a break," but we didn't. Like, I was totally like, "Oh, no, my 40th birthday is coming up in 1 month. I'm not gonna quit." And I was just like, "I can just keep this level of party happening in my life." At the time, I taught 2 days a week. So, obviously, I wasn't drinking on those 2 days except for in the evening, but I was just like, "Oh, I can just keep partying." And I feel like I did. In my memory, that's what I remember. It just felt like chaos going up to my 40th birthday. I always say the cruise catapulted that craziness of the last 2 months to where both of us were finally like, if we do this, like, we're going to lose everything. I could finally start to see, okay, I haven't lost my job yet. I haven't ruined my marriage yet. I haven't damaged my kid's life yet. So I think finally my brain was like, you need to do something. And that's when I finally decided I would do a 30-day break. I'm like, I will do a 30-day break and it will
Hmm.
teach me how to drink better. I will go back to drinking after those 30 days and I will be so much better at it that it'll be fine. Newsflash, I didn't go back to drinking after the 30-day break. I just kept going.
Yeah. Well done, you, Sarah, just for recognizing those red flags and for
Yeah.
thinking all these bad things could happen if I carry on like this. And the cruises, yeah, they kill me, these cruises. No wonder it was so expensive because these guys know that the cruise is going to be full of people like yourself that are
Right.
going to get as much as they can.
We were all just, oh, we all bought this drink package. We're
Yeah.
all going to show this cruise. And you think about it, like how many people were exactly the same as us on the cruise
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
spend that money on the drink package? Because there was one person in our party that did not buy the drink package. There were a few that were paying as they went. And then one friend was just a non drinker. She has always been a non drinker. And I remember being so like, how could you even be on this cruise and not drink?
Yeah.
And now I look and I'm like, oh my God, there's a lot to do on a cruise that
Yes,
I did not
exactly.
do.
Yes, you missed the whole thing.
Right?
I know a lot of people, and I used to worry too about sober holidays. I used to think, how can that work? Because for me, holiday was, wow, I can start drinking at 11 o'clock in the morning and drink every
Yeah.
day, and it's going to be great. But I used to come back from my holidays absolutely exhausted.
Mhm.
So for me, it's such a revelation to go on a sober holiday and not only have lots of nice things happen and remember them, but to come home feeling refreshed. And it was like, oh,
right?
wow, that's what holidays are
It's like the whole point of a holiday when you
for.
actually look at it, you're like, "Oh, I don't need a holiday from my holiday."
Yes, exactly, exactly. So you decided to take 30 days off. Yeah, I think that is a good approach because when we're drinking, like you were drinking, like I was drinking, the thought of never having a drink again is just not feasible, is it? We have to do
Yeah.
things gently. Because even after only 30 days, I think we're in a different space mentally, aren't we? We start
Mhm.
to feel differently and look at the future a bit differently. So how did it happen for you? You were with your husband on this 30 days. Was it difficult?
Strangely enough, it was not. It was really eye-opening, and I
Mm.
think both of us were so excited for a change, and we're starting to read books about quitting drinking. They were doing their job. They were getting us really going, "Oh, alcohol's really bad for you," and it's just like, "Why are we doing this? This is crazy." Outside of drinking, I was a really healthy person, working out every day, eating really healthy, but drinking so much. And when I say eating really healthy, I was like not eating any carbs because I was saving all my carbs for my alcohol. So I was actually really restricting foods and not nourishing myself the right way just so I could have alcohol. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh." So that was the first thing when I quit drinking. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can eat anything I want to right now." So that was just so much fun for me, someone who had been a calorie restrictor for so long. And I was losing belly bloat even by doing that. I was like, "This is amazing. This is the secret." So I think that was really motivating me. I wasn't hungover. It turned out I was living in a constant state of hangover. And when people tell me like, "I don't get hangovers," I'm like, you do. You just are so used to it that you don't think you do. I would get terrible hangovers on the weekends, but it turned out even my weekdays were really held back. Like my brain was just not functioning at its full level. And finally it was, and it was amazing. It was actually really fun to be like, whoa, this
Yeah.
is life. Life is really cool without alcohol. Who knew?
Who knew? Indeed. Yeah, one of the things as drinkers, one of the sad things really is we get used to always feeling a bit under par, even if we haven't got a hangover, because that stuff's still in our system. So when we do get sober and we wake up in the morning feeling really good, it's wow. It's a
Yeah.
surprise, isn't it?
Oh my
A
gosh.
lovely
I feel
surprise.
there were so many mornings that I'd wake up, like, right in the beginning, and my first thought would be, "Oh, no, I'm hungover again," because it was my normal thought, "Oh, no, I drank too much last night," and then I would go, "No, you didn't. You're not drinking right now," and I'd be like, "Oh my god," it was so exciting, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna feel really good today." So I think those things, like, I just finally started seeing all of the good stuff instead of being trapped in this mindset of, "This is gonna be terrible. This is gonna be boring." Instead, I was finally looking at the really awesome things happening because I was quitting, and I think that's what made it, quote, unquote, "easier," because there were definitely still moments where I'd be like, "Oh, it's Friday. What do I do on Friday without alcohol? How do I get through a weekend without alcohol?" But I was just pretty determined that I was gonna do the 30 days because I had told myself, "If you can't do 30 days, you've got a drinking problem,
Yeah.
and then you've gotta seek outside help." And like I said at the beginning, I did not want that, even though now I look back and I'm like, "You so had a drink." Problem, but it took me a few years of sobriety to be like, "Oh, I think I had a drinking problem." I was a slow
And
learner in that area.
and your husband, how did he get on with those 30 days? Because you were
Oh
doing
my
it
god.
together?
Yeah, he was very much, "I'm not doing 30 days, I'm just done drinking." And I was like, "Whoa, we'll see."
Steady on.
I was like, "You just hold on there." Like, he always goes, "No, it wasn't even hard, I just decided I was done." I'm like, "What? That's crazy." So, he has had the easier time. But sometimes he'll be like, "Bet I could have just 1 drink," and then he'll always go, "But I'm not going to. It's not worth it at all." I think he just saw that it served no purpose in his life a lot
Yeah,
faster than I did.
yeah. I think that's such a key point, isn't it? When we realize that alcohol doesn't actually add anything to our
Yeah,
lives and we can
yeah.
just make peace with not having any. So, how many years of sobriety have you got now?
I'll have 5 years on May 13th.
Well done, well done. Yeah,
It's
that's
strange as the days get higher and higher. You don't look at your tracker as much anymore, and
no.
you're just flowing. But the getting to my 5 year, it's coming, it's happening. This is because 4 years felt, yeah, this is just what we do. 3 years felt like that too, but 5 years feels wow. I just can't even believe that happened.
Yeah, I'll always celebrate my soberversary. That's more important to me than my normal birthday now,
Yeah.
much more meaningful, certainly. So talk us through the main benefits, Sarah, since you stopped drinking. What's your
Mm,
main benefits?
my gosh, this is always really hard to pick because I feel like there's so many. I feel like the energy level for me being so high now has been a huge benefit. And then my confidence level going up so much. Like people always talk about as you age, you stop caring what people think about you. But I think that quitting drinking got me into that a little bit faster. I became so secure in who I was and that I could live my life the way I wanted to, that it didn't really matter what other people thought anymore. And it's just been the biggest, coolest change for me. And just life without hangovers. Oh my gosh, life remembering every single moment and not having to be filled in by other people saying, "Do you remember that you did this?" And I'm just like, "No, and don't tell me anymore, please." Now I'm just like, "No, I remember everything."
Oh, you want to know
So
what
it's,
you did?
yeah. So I feel I could just go on and on with the benefits,
Sure,
but those are
sure.
definitely the internal ones. And then there's all the external ones of just feeling like my hair is healthier, my skin is healthier. I lost belly bloat in the beginning. It's since come back. It's a little bit of aging right now, so I'm trying to figure that one out. But it's cool because now that I don't drink, I'm like, I know I can figure this out because at least I can rule out alcohol as an issue
Yeah,
with any of this and I can
yeah.
really manage stuff.
Yeah. The confidence thing is very interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of us drink because we're socially anxious and we think that alcohol is going to give us confidence, and it
Yep.
might for a very short time. But then the next morning we wake up, we're completely racked with anxiety. And over time, it really messes everything up. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the confidence. I went through a phase of feeling extremely sober, awkward, as I put it, for the first few months because I felt like I didn't have any conversation without my
Right.
wine. I just felt awkward because I'd always drunk. I started when I was 18, but younger than you, and all my socializing had been around drinking. So suddenly I was in an event with no alcohol and I just felt really awkward. But I had to keep pushing myself and go through
Mhm.
this and go through this. And it was hard. It was really hard. Sometimes I would leave an event early just because I'd had enough. Yeah. But
And
then you actually feel your energy and your confidence coming back, and you feel your personality re-emerging. And it's wonderful. It took me a good few months to get to that stage, but I had been drinking for 40 years, so it
yeah,
could
and
take a while.
it's strange because you become your true self finally.
Yes,
And it's weird because
absolutely.
you meet your true self all of a sudden and
Yes.
you're like, "Whoa, I like this and I don't
Yeah.
like this, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like this person and I don't like this person." And I will say in my early sobriety, I didn't really hang out with a lot of people. I had my husband, I had my sister, I had my best running friend. So I had my core group that knew me as a non-drinker before, so they were easy to hang out with.
Yes.
And the
Yeah.
people that I was drinkers with, I did limit that time. And because I didn't know how to answer questions when they were like, "Oh, do you think you're quitting
Mhm.
forever?" I'm like, "I don't know.
And do you have a
Just,
problem? Like,
yeah, do you have a problem? I don't know. You saw me." I always wanted to be like, "You saw me." Like it didn't look great. I'm just saying. So I will say I had to learn and I had to really pump myself up before I'd go socialize. I'd have to think of, okay, what can I talk to people about? And what can I tell them
mm,
if they ask me about not drinking? What can I hold in my hand? Because that was a big thing, not having a beer. I always tell the people in the Daymakers community, whatever you don't just bring a clear water bottle that is clearly water, because I did that one time and it was the most awkward social situation ever. I'm just holding my water.
and I'm fine. I don't
I'm
miss
fine.
drinking at all.
Don't ask me.
Yeah. I think we have to really look happy about our decision. I often advise people to say something like, I've had 30 days off alcohol and I feel so great. I'm just going to carry it on a bit longer and
Mhm.
be really smiley and positive about it. Because if you look anxious and you say, I'm worried that I might have a problem, of course they all pile in and say, don't be silly. You drink just
Oh,
like we
yeah.
do. You're fine.
Exactly. Can you imagine too? Yeah, that's always what I tell people too. I'm like, you just have to keep it short and say, I'm taking a break and I feel awesome. So
Yeah,
I'm like, and
absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
all you got to tell people.
Yeah. And remember, it's not our responsibility to make other people feel good about their
No.
drinking. It's, I like what you said about we find our true selves as well, because I always thought I was a party animal, and I'm not.
Right.
I'm actually a
Me
bit of
too.
an introvert, and I love being on my own and reading my book and
Hmm.
not
Well,
being out every night.
I would always
Isn't it?
tell people, oh, I'm an extroverted introvert, which is totally true. I can be really outgoing with people, but I definitely prefer just to hang out at home or even
Yeah.
just go do things on my own or just with my family. I knew that socializing wasn't my huge piece, but the only way I socialized was with alcohol.
Yeah.
So it was a change to be like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people just talk? What do you
Yeah.
talk about?
I got round that by listening more, actually, rather than
Yeah.
being the one to tell the stories. I used to try and listen more, and that I think that's a very good tip if you're in early
Yeah.
sobriety, wondering what on earth you're going to talk about. Just listen, because people love being listened to.
Oh,
Let's
they
face
do.
it. It doesn't happen a lot in a drinking crowd. Nobody listens to
No.
anybody.
Everybody's just talking over each other. Yeah.
I know. You mentioned books when you were on your 30 days, quit lit books. Any favorites to mention?
The one that I always tell people was the life changer for me was This Naked Mind by Annie
Yeah.
Grace.
Good.
That is the one that my husband was like, I've been listening to this book. And I was, oh no. It's about quitting drinking. And I was like, oh God, he's going to say he doesn't want to drink anymore. And you should just listen to it. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay. I remember listening and crying right away because I was like, oh my God, this is me. She's saying everything that I feel. And I was okay. And the cool thing she does is say, you don't need to change how you're drinking at all while you're listening to this.
No.
But instantly I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to make a change.
That book did it for me as well because I read it when I was sober, actually. I'd been sober for about 3 or 4 months and I was struggling. It was hard. I thought, let's have a look at this. And it really changed my mindset because it
Mhm.
made me realize that those 3 or 4 months were so difficult because I'd been relying on willpower, really, just gritting my teeth, white knuckling it. I can get through another day. I can do another day. But then when she started talking about limiting beliefs and how if we really work on our mindset, we can see alcohol as something we don't even want. And I was,
Yeah.
wow, there were light bulbs coming on all over the place when I read that book. And then I started looking at my limiting beliefs, what they were, and overturning them. Then it was so much easier. I'm always
Mhm.
grateful to Annie Grace for writing that book. It was great. So mindset, let's think about mindset for a moment. We get a lot of people coming to join Tribe Sober and they say, oh, I'm so depressed. I've got to stop drinking because my doctor's told me and been doing all these crazy things and I've got to get a handle on this. I've got to quit drinking. But I realize my life is over now. It's finished. And they're in,
Right.
and
I
I
can
can't
understand.
I can too, because I was a bit like that as well. But we say to them, don't be depressed. You haven't got a problem. You've got an opportunity here, and you've got
Yeah.
an opportunity to change your life and to really open up your life to so many other things that you never would have thought of. And people go, oh, I've never thought of it that way.
Right.
So I think mindset is so powerful. And I know that you work with people on their mindset as well. So any mindset tips for us?
I think the biggest change I had to make was exactly what you talked about, being in that mindset. Every time I had taken a break and I wasn't successful or I went back to drinking, I was really in this mindset of deprivation where I was like, oh, this is really boring. This is so stupid. Oh my gosh, not drinking is the worst thing. That's where I was. So then I would just go back because I was like, it's easier to just go back to drinking. And then this time I really started seeing all of the, oh my God, I have so much energy. Oh, wow, I'm actually really present when I'm hanging out with my kids. I'm not just thinking about, like, when can we be done with this so I can go have a beer? It was just, wow, there's all these amazing things happening. And I started keeping track of at least one thing every single day that was happening that was positive because I wasn't drinking. And it just was piling up and piling up. And another thing I did that I think helps so much with my mindset, and I still do it every day, I still do two things every day. I write down 5 things that I'm grateful for from the day before. And beginning of my journey, a lot of those were, I don't have a hangover. I hit 20 days alcohol free. Like a lot of them were very not drinking related, so I could see the positivity there. But I could just start seeing more things to be grateful for in my life. And I think it just really flipped that switch in my brain. And I still do it all the time. I was having just a super rough week last week, and the gratitudes were things like my dog, my kids. They were very generic, but sometimes they're so specific, just, oh, I can't believe this thing happened and I got to write it down. And I think that helped me so much. When I don't do my daily gratitudes, I feel it. I start to sink into that mindset of, oh, everything's really hard and I'm so stressed and I just wish I had a break. But when I'm in the gratitude mindset, things are just coming easier for me. The other thing I did right when I quit is I started doing daily affirmations. I just decided that every day I would write down, I do not drink. And the first day I wrote it down, I cried and I was like, I don't think so. I don't even believe this. I don't know if I'm quitting. And I was like, just write it down and say it out loud 5 times. And I was like, okay. So my affirmation in the beginning was, I do not drink, which now I've learned all these things that you're not supposed to put the word not in affirmations and keep
I
it
am a
positive.
non-drinker.
Yeah. So I'm a non drinker and it comes easily to me. That is what worked for me, and just saying it every day, and it really just went into my brain. Somehow it became the real belief
Mm.
because all the other things were just other truths that I had made up. So I was like, "Oh, I can make up this other truth and have this be the real thing." So I still do my affirmations each day, and I still sit there and I read them out loud quietly, and it still feels a little goofy, but I just know they help.
Absolutely, they do. The science is out there now, isn't
Mhm.
there? About
Yeah.
affirmations, about gratitude lists.
Mhm.
It's all there, and about the benefits of journaling as well. The
Yeah.
studies have been done now, and the evidence is there. Did you know that when you're writing your gratitude journal, don't just say you're grateful for your socks. Say you're grateful for your socks because they're such a pretty color. Some science
Yeah.
that proves that your subconscious will actually recognize that if you
Mhm.
say why you're
Yeah.
grateful for it. So I thought that
Yeah.
that was really interesting.
Getting more specific, and I always tell my clients to have a few throwaway ones when it's really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have anything. Okay, the sun. Oh, great.
Yeah. The
I was
sky
like,
is still up
but
there.
otherwise, yeah, exactly. But otherwise, you need to be trying to be super specific and also thinking of not just things, but people and actions that they
Mm,
did and just things that they said that really lit you up for whatever reason. It doesn't have to be this huge, profound thing either. It can just
mm,
be something that made you laugh really hard. And
yeah.
I love that reminder to be specific. That was like super specific too with the socks. It makes me laugh because I'm a sock person.
There you go. Make sure they're in your list tonight. I always used to do dry January because I thought if I can do dry January, then I don't have a problem. So I would get through. I would start thinking about this dry January by about October, and I would think I'd better get some reserves in. So
Right.
it's going to be really hard. So I'd be drinking more up to it, and then of course, come February, it was party time. But now that I understand more, I think back and I think, oh, I was gritting my teeth, and I found it so difficult. And I realized that my subconscious must have been absorbing that, oh, this sobriety thing, it's so miserable.
Mhm.
And that doesn't help at all with the mindset, does it? Because as you
No.
say, when you go on after that 30 days and get to 60 days and maybe make your new neural pathway and keep going, all the benefits come in. So then those benefits keep you going because you don't want to lose those benefits. You don't want to start
Yeah.
waking up in the morning feeling terrible again. I think that's quite interesting that those short breaks, if we're not doing them with the right mindset, they can actually be counterproductive.
Yeah, definitely. I know, and I always think to myself, there was a TikTok going around where somebody said, if you're doing dry January to prove that you don't have a problem, it's your sign right there that you've probably got a problem. And I was like, whoa, I could not have heard that when I was a drinker.
Yeah. Well, I would have
But as
heard it
an
and thought, what a load of nonsense.
I know I would have been like, whatever, because I can quit for 30 days. I remember even thinking, oh, well, I quit and there's still alcohol in my house. There's no way somebody with a problem could do that.
So if we've been relying on alcohol for years to make us feel good, then early sobriety can feel extremely flat, can't it? And
Mhm.
boring and time on our hands, etc. How can we replace that buzz naturally? Any tips around that?
I love talking about this because it was something that I didn't really understand when I first quit. And I definitely felt, oh my gosh, I have so much time on my hands, which was something I had always wanted. I was always thinking, oh, if I could just had more time, I could do more of this stuff that I need to do. So in the beginning, I got really big on making lists, and I had no idea that it was actually a way to get some dopamine into our
Yeah.
body when you're crossing things off of a list. And I was just, I'm going to make a weekend list. Love it. Every morning now, I make a little list and I make sure there's stuff that I'm really going to make happen. So the next morning I can cross them off. Yeah, go me. When I first quit, I would make a list of just all the stuff that I had put off. I'm going to go through my closet. I'm going to go through that pile under my desk, which some of them were overwhelming and daunting. So I would really try to pick and choose, and I would put fun things on the list. So it helped keep me busy because I could just look at my list and say, okay, here's the things you're going to do this weekend. And then crossing them off as I'd go was giving me that little hit of dopamine, which I didn't learn about until later. So I always suggest to people make a list of simple things and put some things on there that you really want to do and some things that you just know you're gonna do. Like it could be brush your teeth for a little while just to get that little boost, but it also keeps you busy. You get done with a weekend and you feel rested, something I never felt when I was a drinker. And you go, oh my God, I also got all this stuff done. That's so cool. I was just like, whoa, I'd had no idea people were actually accomplishing things during the weekend. So that's my number one tip. The other thing is to just remember to get outside, soak up the sun, go on walks. All these things produce dopamine and serotonin for us. And listen to music. Music is just my huge one right now when I'm feeling like, oh, I don't want to do that. Because at some point it wears off that you're like, oh, my weekends are so productive. You're like, okay, yeah, the weekends are really productive, but man, I've got a lot of stuff to do still. But when I can put on my headphones and just listen to my music, oh, it makes me feel so good and it makes it not so hard. So I think those are my top ones.
Yeah, yeah. Exercise and music. When I was trying to change my habits at 6 o'clock, which is when I would open my wine, I used to put
Hmm.
on my headphones and just walk for an hour by the
Yeah.
sea. And I came home and I didn't even want to drink. And because I did that so many times, I've now built a neural pathway around my walk. So if I don't do my walk, I'm just, oh, what have I forgotten to do?
Yeah.
So that was a good tip for me. And
Exercise is definitely my people always go, "Oh, no, I knew you were gonna say exercise." And I'm like, "Sorry, it really works." I'm like, "It's not just for your body, it's for your brain too."
yeah,
And just moving your body and people are always like, "Oh, but I'm so tired." I'm like, The strange thing is you won't be if you
yeah,
just do it." And I always tell people, listen to a sober podcast and go on a walk.
yeah.
And you don't have to listen to the whole podcast, although us podcasters do appreciate it when you listen to the whole podcast.
We do, we do.
But yes, but it's get something positive in your ears, go on a walk, and your mood will be changed. You'll get back
Yeah,
and go, okay, I listened to that person's sober story. I feel a lot more powerful. I moved my body. I got some dopamine. Now I can do this.
yeah. When I got sober, I took such pleasure in really catching up with personal admin, that went back for
Yeah.
years that I really should have been on top of. And it's just a little thing, but it cleared it out of my brain. It gave me a buzz that I was on, so I was in control.
Yeah, I know. I always want to tell people, like, I know this is going to sound really boring, but you know that one drawer that you never clean out? Go clean
Yeah.
that out the next time you have a craving. And I know you're not going to want to, but you just need to fight that feeling. And once you start, if you're listening to a podcast or music while you do it, all of a sudden it's going to get done and you're going to go, wow, I did that. It's really a sense of I'm taking care of myself. I'm doing all the things I need to do to make my brain be free.
Yeah, I often say to people that this sobriety journey, it's about learning to love yourself again and take
Hmm.
care of yourself. Now, I heard somewhere, maybe it was on your amazing TikTok feed, that you increased your productivity once you quit
Oh my
drinking.
gosh.
And
Oh
I'm
my
getting
gosh,
a
yes.
feeling for you've already talked about cleaning out your drawers, etc. So tell us more.
Definitely the cleaning out the piles. It was embarrassing, the piles that I had. And at the time, we lived in a really big house. Now we live in a very small space while we're building our house. But there were just in every corner, there were just things piled because it was an easier way for me to make the big spaces appear clean. If we were having people over, I would literally put things into bags and go put them in our garage, which now I've found out is called a doom pile. Don't organize, only move. And I was like, oh, I had so many doom piles. So I started going through those and it was a little bit embarrassing because I'd be like, oh my gosh, some of this stuff is like from years ago and I forgot I had it. Or I'd be like, this was the thing that I couldn't find. But it was also just freeing just to go, okay, it's gone. Besides that, my husband and I started doing yard work again. We always said we loved yard work, even when we were drinkers, but we would do a little bit and then we would drink and then we wouldn't get anything done. So suddenly we were like doing yard work to the max and painting our fence and like sanding and staining the arbor that had needed it for 10 years. And it was amazing. It didn't feel hard. It didn't feel exhausting because I had so much energy. And I think that's when we started getting the super crazy idea to develop this piece of land we've had for a while that was always just our drinking property. And let's build a house like totally crazy people. And we were so like, oh, yeah, we can do this. And we have. And there's no way our drinking selves could have done it.
I was
It,
just going to ask you that you wouldn't have taken on this massive project if you were still
oh,
drinking.
no,
Interesting.
no
It just
way.
shows how much we can achieve. Someone said to me once, it was a guy that had given up drinking because he was very ambitious and he was just in his 40s and he decided that he wanted to be a CEO. He worked in a bank and he decided he was going to quit drinking because it was such a boozy atmosphere in his company. He thought that sobriety would give him an edge, and it
Yeah.
did. And I've talked to him since, and he came out with this thing that I thought was really interesting. He said, even if alcohol doesn't destroy you, and it doesn't destroy all of us, it will always prevent you from reaching your potential. And I thought,
Hmm.
that is so true, isn't it? Even those moderate drinkers that don't go overboard like we did and they don't have to stop, they might not reach their potential if they're drinking a few glasses of wine most evenings. So
Yeah. Because
something
no
to
matter
think
what,
about.
it's holding you back. It's making your brain tired. I always tell people, I'm like, it's the secret that nobody really talks
Mm,
about. That
yeah,
if you want to know how to achieve that big goal that you've been going
mm,
for forever and just can't quite reach, just try doing it without alcohol
yeah.
and see if it
It's
changes it.
so talk to me about coaching. When did you decide to train as a coach and why?
When I first quit drinking, I was doing Sober October with friends. I was saying, hey, do this. I'll have a Facebook group open. We can all check in. I quit drinking about 6 months ago and my life has just changed. So try it out with me. So I just hosted really casual Sober October and then a November and then a December. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to make some videos to go with it. And so I filmed some videos that have turned into my 30-day alcohol-free challenge. Really just talked about all the different things I had noticed in my alcohol-free journey, and it has just really turned into this cool thing where I do a 30-day alcohol-free challenge now 4 times a year. I walk with people through those first 30 days of being alcohol-free and then really help them analyze, you know, is this something that you'd want to keep going on and help them learn how to look for the positive and not the negative and have a cheerleader in their corner? And it's just been so awesome for me, for other people, and just to have this little tribe of sober people. The name of your podcast is spot on.
That's fabulous. So how can people find out more about you, Sarah?
So you can find me on TikTok and Instagram, and both the handles are the same there. It's No More Wasted Days is the name of my business. And then the handles for those are no_more_wasted_days. I bet if you just type in No More Wasted Days, you'll just find me. I'll pop up. And then I'm also on Facebook and YouTube. And I have the No More Wasted Days podcast as well.
Awesome. So if someone's listening to this, Sarah, and they know that they've got a bit of a problem, they're finally admitting it, but they just don't know how to get started, what would you say to them?
I would say make a deal with yourself of an amount of days that you want to go. You're going to go this many days. That was the motivator for me of I'm going to go 30 days. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to try therapy or Alcoholics Anonymous because those were the only two options I could think of. Now I know there's so many options, but I was just thinking, okay, if I can go those 30 days, and I really didn't want to do anything outside. I was like, I'm so busy. I can't go to meetings. I can't find time with a therapist. That's not going to work for me. So I was like, I'm going to make these 30 days stick. But if somebody's saying 30 days and that sounds way too long, then make a deal with yourself that you're going to go 4 days. But then make the deal with yourself that the next time you come back, you're going to go 8. And then the next time you come back, go 16 until you're really ready to go those 30. And every time you do it, write down the good stuff that's happening to you because you're choosing not to drink. Start training yourself to get into that positive mindset around ditching alcohol.